tonight. Growing tensions in the Middle East lead to fears of greater conflict.
It's going to escalate and there will be war. We're going to war there.
Is a multi-front war inevitable for Israel? Plus, President Biden lays out his plans to reform the Supreme Court. And
hurt on the inside just because me as a Black female living in the Black community seeing this often.
How the shocking murder of Sonia Massey is shining a light on proper police training. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The Middle East braces for Israel's response to a deadly attack that killed a dozen children. Welcome to Faith Nation from CBN's Washington Bureau. I'm Caitlin Burke. The deadly attack happened over the weekend, hitting a soccer field in the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights. The strike, which killed 12 children, is being blamed on Lebanon's Hezbollah and marks the deadliest attack on Israeli civilians since October 7th. Tonight, growing concerns it could lead to yet another war. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener has the latest.
Caitlin, while there have been daily attacks on the Israel-Lebanon border since the Gaza conflict began, so far full-scale war has been avoided, but the heavy toll and young victims of Saturday's attack may spark a stronger response from Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, quote, "Our response will come and it will be severe." The attack sounding alarms about a regional conflict growing wider, even though Hezbollah is denying any involvement. Since the Gaza conflict with Hamas started in October, cross-border clashes between Israel and Hezbollah have been nearly constant. Today, Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon killed 2 people and injured others. Israeli officials claim the strikes targeted Hezbollah operatives and infrastructure. Hezbollah, which is so far has greater firepower than Hamas, is reportedly moving precision-guided missiles. The United States is urging caution as Israel considers its response.
Israel has every right to respond. It's Hezbollah that started firing on Israel way back in October. And I think we need to keep that in mind. But nobody wants a broader war, and I'm confident that we'll be able to avoid such an outcome.
Now, Israel's security cabinet has given Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant the authority to decide on the response to this weekend's deadly attack. Caitlin, this is all unfolding as ceasefire negotiators are preparing to resume talks in Rome.
Thanks, Tara. Joining us now is Brad Bowman, the Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Brad, Israeli officials vow Hezbollah will pay a heavy price for the Golan Heights attack, but they're also under a lot of pressure to avoid this turning into an all-out war in the north. What kind of response do you think we could see from them?
I think that Israel will respond strongly. I think we will see an additional Israeli response beyond what we've already observed. And I think, for my part, Israel has no choice. And when you consider the horrific nature of this attack, Israel has no choice but to respond. And if it doesn't respond strongly, well, it'll simply get more of the same. And it is interesting to me that pressure comes from Washington often most intensely when Israel is considering how to respond to aggression. And if you think about this logically, if Israel's enemies can count on Washington always applying pressure when Israel is responding to defend itself, then that simply invites more attacks because they're going to rely on Washington to restrain Israel. So it's a good-intentioned and naive and negative impulse that we see in Washington and unfortunately is playing out again.
What are some of the factors that you think Israeli leadership are considering right now as they weigh what their response should be?
You know, they don't want 2 major wars at the same time. That's one of the reasons why, from an Israeli perspective, they have tried to keep this low-scale war from becoming a full-scale war in the north. But as things wind down in Gaza, the status quo in Israel's north is just unacceptable, with at least 60,000 people displaced from their homes, more than 24 people killed, and attacks happening on a daily basis since October 8th. The very small country of Israel, which is roughly the size of New Jersey, has effectively gotten smaller, and that's unacceptable to Israelis and American friends of Israel, and they have to do something about it. The problem is Hezbollah is far more capable than Hamas is, and we've seen how tough that war has been in Gaza.
Now, Hezbollah still hasn't actually claimed responsibility for this attack. Is there any question that they were behind it?
There's no question in my mind that Hezbollah either launched it or was supportive of it being launched. There are other groups that operate in those areas, but I'd say Hezbollah is not necessarily known for truth telling. So, I don't really trust what they're saying. The U.S. government has said it's Hezbollah. Israel has said it's Hezbollah. That's enough for me.
What role do you think Iran plays in all of this? How does this attack play into their overall strategy concerning Israel?
The Islamic Republic of Iran, the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism, is implementing a decades-long strategy to surround and exterminate the state of Israel. That sounds hyperbolic, but after October 7th, I think the burden of proof is on anyone who would say that that's not accurate. And Hezbollah is Iran's leading terror proxy. And so Iran is using Hezbollah, Hamas, and now the Houthis, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and others to harry, harass, and wear down Israel for the purposes of ultimately exterminating the Jewish state. And from an Israeli perspective, this is unacceptable because all of the counterpunches are being directed at the terror puppets, and the puppet master in the Islamic Republic of Iran is sitting largely unbothered, just watching it unfold with a smile on their face.
All right, Brad Bowman with the Foundation for Defensive Democracies. Thank you as always for your insights.
Thank you.
In Washington, a major announcement from President Biden proposing a number of reforms to the Supreme Court. Among the changes shared Monday in a Washington Post op-ed, term limits for justices. If implemented, they would serve 18 years instead of a lifetime appointment. Biden says this would reduce the chance of a single president radically altering the makeup of the court for generations to come. He's also calling on Congress to pass a court code of ethics and says he'll pursue a constitutional amendment prohibiting blanket immunity for a president's actions while in office. While sweeping, these proposals are unlikely to go anywhere, all of them in some way requiring congressional approval and Republican buy-in. Meanwhile, with less than 100 days to go until Election Day, polls show the race for the White House is basically tied. According to a Wall Street Journal survey, former President Donald Trump is leading Harris 49% to 47% with a 3-point margin of error. Trump's lead vanishes when an independent or third-party candidate is thrown into the mix, with Harris receiving 45% and Trump getting 44%. Over the weekend, Trump unleashing new attacks against Harris.
A Kamala Harris presidency means 4 more years of extremism, weakness, failure, chaos, and probably World War III.
Meanwhile, Harris is narrowing down her list of potential running mates. She plans to announce her pick by August 7th. With that, let's bring in Dr. Mark Clausen of Cedarville University. Dr. Clausen, let's start with Biden's proposed Supreme Court reforms. There's a very slim chance that any of these would happen. So what do you think is behind this announcement? What's it actually about? Stirring up votes for Harris?
Well, I think it's to excite the base of President Biden. And I think it may work for the base. That's a relatively large category of his supporters. I don't even think it's going to play well with Congress. If let's assume that the Democrats in Congress, which they would have to approve almost all of these proposals, I don't even think they would support it completely. This harkens back to Franklin Roosevelt in the 1930s.
How much of this do you believe is about recent rulings that we've seen from the court's conservative majority?
Yeah, I think that's the main issue right there. They don't like the rulings. They've gone against the Democratic Party, the particular platforms of the party, at the top of the party at least, and against the base. And they believe they can do something to change that, or at least propose something to change it, hoping that maybe in the future it can go forward.
Turning to the election, which has been totally upended, Harris is seeing a big boost in support. Do you think that this is just the honeymoon phase, or do you expect that it will continue to be a tight race?
Normally, we would say this is a honeymoon phase. And I would say, if I were a betting person, which I'm not, but if I were, it is a honeymoon phase. Things will kind of settle back to normal, whatever normal looks like, whatever it was before. In a few weeks after the convention. I think there'll be another spike just after the convention, but you have to wait a while after that. And then I think it'll go back to what it would be ordinarily among the voters.
Now we know Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance is breaking polling records, and not in a good way. He's got a negative approval rating following the RNC. What do you think that's about? Why is he polling so badly so early?
Well, in part, there's a perception, and I think in part this is just a perception, that he doesn't bring anything to the table. He replicates former President Trump. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true, but I think that's a big perception. The other perception is that he's made statements that people don't like. Obviously, the statement about women and cats and so forth, that didn't play well. But some of his ideas that he proposed in the past also don't play well. Regarding abortion, for example, there's a segment of the population that doesn't agree with that. So right now, at least, that tends to be an albatross around his neck. That's a problem for him. He has to respond to it. I think he can, but it's a problem right now.
All right. Well, we will see how that keeps playing out. Dr. Mark Clausen, thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Coming up, a woman gunned down by a police officer in her kitchen triggers demands for justice and reform. Welcome back. The fatal shooting death of an Illinois woman by a police deputy with a troubled past is renewing calls for reform. Charged with murder, the officer could face life in prison if convicted. CBN's Charlene Aaron has the story.
The Justice Department is investigating the death of Sonia Massey, a black woman shot to death in her home by a white sheriff's deputy. It's a case raising questions about the use of deadly police force.
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face. Okay, I'm sorry. Drop the pot! Drop the pot!
Body cam footage shows the disturbing moment Deputy Sean Grayson shot and killed Sonia Massey. Massey had called 911 after she reported a prowler at her Springfield, Illinois home. Officer Grayson and his partner responded to the call. When deputies told Massey to remove a pot of boiling water from the stove, things quickly escalated.
Away from my husband in the water? Yeah. Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Grayson shot Massey, who was unarmed, in the head. He has since been fired from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department and arrested for murder and other charges.
My first reaction was anger. Of course, I felt, I was sad. There was, just a lot of hurt on the inside, just because me as a black female living in the black community, seeing this often.
The case highlights troubling behavior in Grayson's past. According to court records, he held 6 different police jobs over the past 4 years. In 2015 and 2016 came 2 DUI misdemeanors, and before that, an Army discharge for misconduct. Given that history, Chicago Police District Councilwoman Elise Edwards joins many others arguing Grayson should not have been allowed in law enforcement.
Even when an officer is sanctioned and found out, they just move around to other places. And then they're able to continue their misbehavior, their bad behavior, their misconduct.
Grayson also failed to activate his body camera until after firing the fatal shots, a violation of the state's Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act, also known as the Safety Act. Carlton Mayers, Esquire, helped create the legislation, which includes standards for use of police force.
We can see that law enforcement did not utilize the training that is now mandated under state law when it comes to de-escalation, when it comes to crisis intervention techniques, trainings, and even when it comes to, just in general, implicit bias and how you engage with people that have a different lived experience than your own.
Massey struggled with mental health issues, according to family, and during the encounter, police asked if she had taken her medication. Edwards says the rise in these cases points to the need for mental health experts to assist officers during 911 calls.
Why can't we free up their time to actually work on problems that are so urgent that only someone with a gun and badge can handle? So when it is a mental health crisis, We need people who are actually trained.
Meanwhile, the Justice Department is also investigating Massey's murder. Grayson faces 3 counts of first-degree murder, and if convicted, could face 45 years to life in prison. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Up next, the farmers who say the key to health and wellness is right under your feet. A raging wildfire in Northern California is forcing thousands of residents to flee their homes. The park fire is devouring up to 5,000 acres an hour and is now considered the 6th largest fire in the state. In state history, it's destroyed more than 100 residential buildings, the flames fueled by large amounts of brush and one of the hottest and driest summers in memory. Today, the man suspected of causing the fire appears in court for allegedly pushing a burning car down a hill. As firefighters work to stop that blaze in North Carolina, a farmer is looking to protect the earth in another way. Each year, roughly 1 billion pounds of pesticides are sprayed nationwide, much of it on land that produces our food. A group known as Regenerative Farmers sees this as a major problem. And as CBN's Brody Carter reports, they're taking innovative steps to restore America's soil.
The Earth's soil. It's not glamorous. But biblically, it's where you and I come from, and also our food, both plant and animal. One farmer here in Newton Grove, North Carolina, is making it her priority to study soil health, because when it comes to feeding her family, it favors them too.
We can change our health and our communities just by focusing on soil health. You can smell the difference.
Lisa Williams and her son Lance have transformed their 55-acre farm through regenerative farming. Lisa's focus is to regenerate the soil and ecosystems while avoiding conventional pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. It's taken roughly 4 years to cultivate the land, raising the healthiest cows and chickens to feed her family.
If you have healthy soil, you have healthy grasses. If you have healthy grasses, you have healthy livestock. In our case, it's Hereford cattle.
They fertilize the fields the old-fashioned way, with cow patties.
They have no antibiotics, they're drug-free. We don't spray anything on them. So we can put just about any label we want on these cows.
The family also had a personal reason for choosing this route.
I wanted my family to be healthy, and my husband had a medical condition, and there weren't any answers, and he wasn't getting better.
Larry Williams suffers from an autoimmune disease with no known cure that attacks his muscles. The Williams believed clean eating might help and started the hard work of raising healthy cows.
One, you don't want to lose a spouse, but I really, really believe what I'm doing. I believe it's good for America.
Studies have shown that food grown using regenerative farming practices tends to be more nutritious compared to conventionally farmed food. The healthier the soil, the healthier your food. When it comes to feeding America, farmers and ranchers make up less than 2% of the population. And out of the roughly 2 million farms dotting America's landscape, less than 2% of that land uses regenerative practices. So how is the soil health in America? Dr. Ekrem Ozlu with NC State University says it really depends on where you look.
So the variability in the soil type and climate is huge in North Carolina, sort of from the mountains to coastal plain. Everything can change region by region.
Dr. Ozlu works with farmers in North Carolina to help their fields cultivate healthy soil that can better withstand drought and flooding.
Because soil health or soil in general is like a retirement package. As much as you put there, later you get the benefit.
You know, we have a human health crisis going on, whether we want to admit it or not. And it's related directly, a lot of it, to the food we eat.
North Dakota rancher Gabe Brown is known as a founding father of regenerative farming. An author and consultant, Brown teaches farmers worldwide how to regenerate their dirt and make more money doing it.
I'm literally 10 times more profitable per acre now than I was back then.
Gabe's success and recognition have caught Washington's attention, leading to an invitation to testify before Congress about regenerative farming. Brown tells CBN News that science finds healthy soils produce food with more than 60% higher vitamins, fatty acids, and nutrients.
You've eaten a tomato out of a garden. You know how good that is, and I'm assuming you like tomatoes. Well, then go buy one and look what you get in a restaurant or a store. Look, that isn't even the same thing.
There can be challenges, however, when switching to regenerative practices. For example, it can take up to 5 years to see a return on the investment in terms of the soil's health or profit.
But once they realize what we are proposing here is actually not a new thing, we are just regenerating what we used to do in a way which could be an alternative to today's agricultural practices and still providing them the same benefits, but also making them more sustainable.
For Lisa and others, this is more than just better soil. This method can improve people's health, communities, and economic impact.
It's a cycle. For every one farmer it creates, every one job in production agriculture creates 3 to 4 off-the-farm jobs.
Given that America imports roughly 15% of our food, Lisa sees this as a national security component.
We can't constantly rely on other countries to feed us.
Today, Lisa is also spreading the wealth by teaching others what she's learned. As a board member on the North Carolina Soil Health Coalition, she's using a $75,000 grant to educate state farmers about soil health.
God created everything. He created the insects, he created the plants. He worked for 6 days, and on the 7th day, he rested. And that's what they're asking you to do in regenerative agriculture. I just want to be good stewards of what God's given me.
Reporting in North Carolina, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Coming up, a miraculous rescue at sea, next on Faith Nation. Finally, tonight, a harrowing rescue after divers survived nearly 2 days stranded at sea. Nathan and Kim Maker were on a diving trip in the Gulf of Mexico when bad weather hit. After jumping in to help rescue a fellow diver, they got sucked away from their boat. The Coast Guard launched a search team, but with their body temperatures dropping, the couple needed help quick. After 38 hours adrift in the sea, Nathan and Kim were finally spotted and are now recovering in a Texas hospital. Friends and family say their survival is nothing short of a miracle. That is going to do it for us. We'll see you tomorrow.